Yeah. Yeah, she said it last game. I had a special whistle.
What if the most important game of the WNBA season wasn't decided by the players, but by the whistle? That's exactly what many fans believe happened in Game 4 between the Las Vegas Aces and the Indiana Fever. On one side, you had Aaliyah Wilson, a two-time MVP, Finals MVP, and the face of a modern dynasty. On the other, Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom who's brought unprecedented attention to the WNBA, filling arenas and dominating headlines. The matchup was supposed to be a battle for the ages. A defending champion fighting for her crown versus the rookie challenger hungry to shock the world. But instead of being remembered for pure basketball brilliance, this game exploded into one of the most heated debates in recent WNBA history. Fans accused the referees of favoritism. Social media lit up with hashtags like outraged and Yar Free Clark. And even sports analysts on major networks couldn't agree on what they had just witnessed. Tonight, we're diving deep into everything that happened. The game, the calls, the reactions.
Becky certainly felt like a differently officiated game than other parts of the series. I think we had more defensive 3 seconds today than any other part of the playoffs. I just wonder how you felt about the overall flow of the game.
Well, they shot 34 free throws and we shot 11.
And the bigger picture that could define the league for years to come. To understand why this game became so explosive, we need to go back to the beginning. The Indiana Fever weren't supposed to make it this far. Just a year ago, they were at the bottom of the league, struggling for wins and identity. Then Caitlin Clark arrived. Her presence transformed not only the team, but the entire WNBA. Suddenly, Fever games were sellouts. Merchandise flew off the shelves. TV ratings shattered records. For the first time in decades, casual sports fans who never cared about women's basketball were tuning in. On the other side stood the Las Vegas Aces. Aaliyah Wilson's squad wasn't just good. They were a powerhouse. Back-to-back championships. Depth at every position. A culture of confidence, maybe even arrogance that came from knowing they were the best. To many, the Aces represented the establishment, the team the league relied on to showcase excellence. This clash was more than just a playoff game. It was a storyline that felt scripted, the dynasty versus the disruptor. Could the young rookie and her scrappy team take down the reigning queens of the WNBA? Or would experience, size, and dominance crush the dream before it ever had a chance? By the time Game 4 tipped off, the Fever were already being painted as America's underdog. Every Caitlin Clark highlight was shared millions of times. Every smile, every frustration, every move on the court was magnified. And the Aces knew it. They knew they weren't just playing against the Fever. They were playing against the wave of public support that surrounded them. The stakes? Everything. For the Aces, it was legacy. For the Fever, it was survival. And for the WNBA, it was a showdown that could shape the league's reputation on fairness, balance, and respect. But as the game unfolded, that reputation came under fire like never before. At first, the game looked like it would deliver the clash fans were hoping for. Both teams came out aggressive. Wilson attacked the paint, showing off her strength and versatility. Clark orchestrated the Fever offense with her usual flair, hitting deep threes and setting up her teammates. But then, the whistles started. By the second quarter, Indiana's front court was in foul trouble. Fever players were forced to play softer defense, giving Wilson more space inside. And every time she went up strong, it felt like the whistle was waiting. Wilson lived at the free throw line, racking up points while the Fever bench sat in disbelief. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark drove to the basket multiple times, absorbed heavy contact. And nothing. No call. At one point, cameras caught her throwing her hands in the air, shaking her head in frustration. Social media instantly clipped it and spread it like wildfire. How is this not a foul? The turning point came late in the third quarter. The Fever had clawed their way back within 5 points. Clark crossed half court, attacked the rim, got knocked sideways. Play on. Seconds later, Wilson drew a soft foul on the other end, marched to the line, and extended the lead. The momentum swung, not because of a highlight play, but because of officiating. And that's when fans across the country erupted. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Every platform was flooded. Hashtags like outraged and Free Clark trended for hours. Clips of Clark getting hit with no whistle versus Wilson drawing fouls went viral instantly. Some were slowed down, replayed frame by frame, with captions like, "The WNBA is protecting its stars," or "This is why people don't take the league seriously." Aces supporters fought back. They argued that Wilson simply played more aggressively and earned her calls. They pointed out that Clark, as a rookie, needed to adjust to playoff physicality. They claimed the narrative of rigged games was just fans upset that their new favorite didn't win. But for Fever fans, and even many neutrals, the evidence felt overwhelming. The side-by-side comparisons looked damning. It wasn't just one missed call. It was a pattern, a story. And stories spread faster than box scores. The divide grew. Longtime WNBA watchers shrugged, saying star treatment was nothing new. It's been part of basketball forever. But newer fans, especially those drawn in by Clark, were outraged. They felt like they had just been exposed to the ugly side of pro sports: favoritism, bias, and politics. And the debate only got louder as people started asking a bigger question. Was this about the game, or was it about the league's image? When fans shout rigged, it's rarely just about one call. It's about a feeling, the sense that something bigger is going on behind the scenes. And in this case, the bigger issue was the WNBA's image. For years, critics said the league struggled to grab mainstream attention. Then Caitlin Clark arrived, and suddenly, the WNBA was front-page news. But Clark wasn't the only star the league wanted to market. Aaliyah Wilson had carried the torch for years. She was the reigning MVP, the dominant force, the player who embodied excellence. So when Wilson got call after call, fans wondered, was this really about basketball? Or about protecting the face of the league? It's not a crazy thought. Basketball history is filled with examples of star treatment. Michael Jordan got calls others didn't. LeBron James lives at the line. Even in the WNBA, legends like Diana Taurasi were known to get whistles that younger players couldn't dream of. So was this just another case of the natural hierarchy of basketball? The veteran gets respect, the rookie has to earn it? Or was there something more deliberate at play? A subtle push from the officials to make sure the reigning champ wasn't embarrassed on the biggest stage? These questions don't have clear answers. But once the idea takes root in fans' minds, it spreads like wildfire. And for every Fever supporter angry about missed calls, there was another fan whispering that maybe, just maybe, the league wanted this outcome. The next day, the controversy exploded beyond social media. Sports networks couldn't avoid it. On ESPN, analysts debated for 20 minutes whether the referees had swung the game. One former player insisted Wilson simply played more aggressively and deserved the whistles. Another shot back, saying, "You can't look at that tape and tell me Clark didn't deserve at least 5 extra free throws." On FS1, the debate turned sharper. Pundits openly questioned if the league was protecting its stars. Clips of Clark being knocked to the ground without a whistle rolled on repeat, while Wilson's free throw attempts flashed on the screen like a scoreboard of injustice. Even newspapers weighed in. Headlines read, "Calls overshadow Ace's victory," and "Did the refs decide Game 4?" The controversy wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about integrity, fairness, and trust in the product the league was selling. And then came the post-game interviews. Wilson, calm and composed, brushed it off. "I just played my game," she said. "I can't control the refs. I just control what I do on the court." Clark, meanwhile, chose her words carefully. "It's playoff basketball," she said, forcing a smile. "You're not going to get every call. You just have to keep playing." Her tone was professional, but her body language, the tight jaw, the weary eyes, told a different story. The media devoured every second of it. Slow-motion replays, freeze frames, expert breakdowns of hand placement and body contact. What should have been a story about two incredible athletes clashing in the playoffs became a story about whistles, referees, and controversy. In the days that followed, the fallout only grew. Fever fans flooded forums and message boards with complaints. Some even started online petitions demanding referee accountability in the WNBA. Others called for changes in officiating crews, arguing that the league couldn't afford the appearance of bias in its most watched games. The WNBA responded, but just barely. A short statement said the officials had managed the game in accordance with league standards. It was corporate, vague, and unsatisfying to anyone looking for real answers. Meanwhile, Wilson's reputation took an odd turn. For her supporters, the performance cemented her dominance. Over 30 points, relentless aggression, leadership in crunch time. But for her detractors, the achievement came with an asterisk. Sure, she scored, but how much of that came from the free throw line? And then there was Clark. The rookie phenom who had carried the league into a new era suddenly became the symbol of injustice. Every no call against her became part of a larger narrative, that she was being held back, that the league didn't want her rise to overshadow its established stars. The debate wasn't dying down. It was just beginning. The controversy around Game 4 wasn't just about who won or lost. It was about the future of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark's rookie year has already rewritten the rules of attention, marketing, and fan engagement. But every moment of frustration, every questionable call, becomes fuel for a larger conversation. How should the league treat its rising stars? For Wilson, this was supposed to be a moment of glory, another step toward building a legacy as one of the greatest ever. But fair or not, her name is now linked to whispers of favoritism and controversy. And for the league, the challenge is enormous. On one hand, they want to protect the integrity of competition. On the other, they know controversy sells. Every debate, every angry tweet, every viral clip keeps the WNBA in the headlines. In a strange way, the very outrage over Game 4 might be exactly what pushes the league into the mainstream spotlight. Because love it or hate it, people are talking. And in sports, that might be the most valuable thing of all. In the end, Game 4 will be remembered not just as another playoff showdown, but as the night the whistle became the star. For some, it was proof that Aaliyah Wilson is unstoppable, a force of nature who earns every point she gets. For others, it was evidence that the system is stacked, that Caitlin Clark and the Fever never stood a chance against more than just their opponents. But maybe the real story isn't about fouls or free throws. Maybe it's about what this moment revealed, the growing pains of a league on the rise, caught between tradition and transformation, between established legends and new icons. So we're left with a question. Was this just another hard-fought playoff game? Or was it the night the WNBA crossed a line, from pure sport into scripted drama? I'll let you decide. Now let's slow down for a moment and talk about the center of this entire storm. Aaliyah Wilson. Because this controversy isn't just about one game or even one playoff series. It's about something much bigger, the way stars are treated in basketball, and whether they get special privileges that other players simply don't. Aaliyah Wilson is not just another player. She's the face of the Las Vegas Aces, the reigning MVP, and by many accounts, the most dominant force in the WNBA today. When you're on that level, you naturally command attention, from defenses, from the media, and yes, from referees. And that's where this whole special whistle talk really takes root. If you look back at Wilson's career, she's always been a magnet for contact. At 6'4", with elite footwork, length, and agility, she forces defenders to body her up just to slow her down. That means fouls pile up. And when you watch the tape from her peak games, you'll notice something. The whistle often favors her. A bump on the arm? Foul. A hip check on the block? Foul. Hands reaching in as she turns? Foul. For defenders, it can feel like you can't even breathe near her without sending her to the line, and that isn't unique to Wilson. In fact, this has been a pattern in basketball history. Think about Shaquille O'Neal in the NBA. Defenders would practically wrestle him under the rim, and the refs had to decide, do we call every single hit, or do we let the game flow? Most of the time, it meant Shaq got hacked constantly without whistles, but then also picked up some soft calls, because officials knew he was absorbing so much contact. The same goes for stars like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Diana Taurasi, or Breanna Stewart. Being a superstar means the game is officiated through a different lens. Fans call it star treatment. Coaches call it unfair. But the league quietly calls it business, because stars drive ratings, and ratings drive growth. Now here's where the irony comes in. All series long, Fever fans were screaming about Wilson and the Aces getting that exact kind of whistle. The numbers back it up. In games 1 through 3, Vegas consistently shot more free throws than Indiana. Wilson herself was living at the line. So when Game 4 flipped the script and Boston got to the stripe 13 times, Wilson crying special whistle sounded less like truth and more like frustration. It also exposed a double standard. Because when Wilson benefits from calls, it's seen as normal. She's a superstar. She earned that respect. But when Boston gets the exact same treatment, suddenly it's suspicious. That's the heart of why this story blew up so much online. It wasn't just Wilson complaining. It was the MVP of the league indirectly saying, this rookie doesn't deserve the whistle that I get. But here's the twist. Boston isn't just any rookie. She's the #1 pick, the franchise cornerstone for Indiana, and the player many already believe will be the future face of the WNBA. Which makes Wilson's comments feel even more like gatekeeping, like she's protecting her territory. And if you zoom out even more, this is part of a bigger conversation in sports. How do refs balance respect for established stars versus fairness for rising ones? In the NBA, we've seen Luka Doncic complain that vets like Steph Curry or James Harden get calls he doesn't. In the WNBA, fans are now wondering, is Boston already breaking into that star treatment zone? Or is this just the league correcting balance after 3 games of Vegas favoritism? One thing's for sure. Aaliyah Wilson has always carried herself with confidence, sometimes bordering on cockiness. She knows she's the face of the league. She knows cameras are on her. And when she made that special whistle comment, whether she realized it or not, she wasn't just talking about Boston. She was opening up the entire debate about how referees shape the WNBA's biggest games. And that's why the clip went viral. Because fans weren't just debating free throws. They were debating fairness, favoritism, and the politics of being a superstar. But if Aaliyah Wilson represents the established power, the dynasty aces, and the star system as it is, then Aaliyah Boston represents the new guard, the challenger breaking down the door. And speaking of new faces shaking up the entire WNBA conversation, we need to talk about Caitlin Clark.